travel has always been an exchange of sorts. Always. It is supposed to inspire, it is supposed to transform you, it is supposed to, make you unlearn a lot of things. The universe has its unique ways of giving you what you need, not what you want. Secondly, when it comes to nature, okay, and how you say nature impacts people, I've seen it in my trips when people go for forest bathing, when people just have this hangover after 10 days, when they're like, we don't want to go back to the city life.
Hi, welcome to Bifocal Naturalist. Our guest today is Divyakshi Gupta. Divyakshi, with beautiful divine eyes and lovely long tresses. Of course, we'll not forget to ask her how she's maintaining these, lovely lush hair, a rarity in today's, contemporary times. Yeah. So she's a kinesthetic traveler with a unique approach to nature, both the natural environment and the built environment. And her fascination with tastes, smells, sounds, and textures has turned her into a travel blogger. And with her immersive stories and stunning visuals, she has captivated her audience. She is an award-winning person, the first to be a travel blogger to be featured on WordPress, and she has won awards from various tourism boards, from India and across the world. Mauritius, Nepal, Indonesia, Karnataka, to name a few. She has curated social media campaigns, and that's where I met her first, on her story of the doors of India, which she did for Tata Steel. And since the last 2 years, she's curating hyper local tourist activities, journeys to offbeat places. Hi, Divya, how are you?
Hello, Vidya. Thank you so much for having me on this show. It's an honor. Honestly, it's an honor to be on your show. And thank you so much. I've been so inspired with the work that you do around trees, about local cuisines, and it's so diverse and so inspiring. So I am absolutely looking forward to this conversation with you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Divya. Thank you very much. Divyakshi is a beauty with brains. She has curated, or rather crafted a career, with passion. She has an MBA in marketing, but today she's into blogging and traveling. Traveling is a passion with her, and today she's taking people along with her to experience the beauty of the people and the planet. So, Divya, I would like to know why traveling?
Vijaya, actually, travel goes back a very long way because I was born to two people who loved traveling. One who made traveling his profession. My dad, he used to sail around the world. He was in the
Uh-huh.
Merchant Navy. So
Oh,
by default, the love for sea, oceans, water, it's a different story altogether. And my mom, who came from the north part of India, Punjab, and she got me into road trips because of her love for road trips and mountains because my grandparents were in the mountains. So that's why when people say mountains or the sea, I it's a very tough question for me because I really can't choose between the two, but the heart is definitely tilted towards the mountains. There's an absolute bias there. So yeah, so travel actually happened a long ago. A long time ago. I started traveling with my parents, of course. I used to be very miffed with them early on as a kid because I was only taken to holidays in India. We never had foreign holidays because I think apparently dad and mom had already sailed around the world. So for them, it was more of India exploration. Now, years later, I thank them with the bottom of my heart because they introduced me to the beauty of India, to the diversity of India. And like I always say, one lifetime is not enough to explore India. So I'm glad that I got that opportunity through them to, drive down the nooks and corners of India and see the diversity, feel it, like you talked about the senses, experience it through different sights, smells, fragrances. It is, like I say, it's a rainbow of experiences. India is that diverse.
Yeah. I also see, when I read your blogs that you have a fascination for rivers, rivers and mountains.
Yes,
Yeah, but how did you
yes,
develop this
yes,
fascination
yes.
for rivers? Mountains, I understand a little because you used to go every
Yeah,
year to the
correct,
foothills of the Himalayas to visit your parents.
correct. It's, my grandparents, yeah, in
Grandparents.
Himachal.
Yes.
So, it was a very tiny town called Ponta Sahib. Now it's become an industrial town. It's in the southern part of Himachal. So we
Mhm.
used to go, all my summer vacations used to be there. And that's when the first time, it was on the banks of the river Yamuna and a very clean Yamuna. So we used to pick pebbles. I used to go for long walks with my grandfather along the banks of Yamuna. And that's when I found a kind of a serenity or peace by the riverside. And it just grew, because then, of course, there was the Ganga, because we used to go to Haridwar, and the Ganga was like, worshipped. It was a different, then there were different other rivers that I got acquainted, especially when I started traveling with Doreen. She took me to Bhutan. I fell in love with the Bhutanese rivers, the Mochu, the Phochu, and all of that. Then I started extensively traveling in Himachal. I think the most favorite river, I wouldn't be able to like pinpoint one, but there was this river Baspa in Chitkul, and I absolutely love the river because there is just so much peace when you sit on a rock beside it. And then, of course, the river Parvati, flowing through the Parvati Valley and then merging into the Beas in a place that is very close to my heart, the Jia village. And it was right opposite the place that I stayed in. My landlord's house was just opposite River Parvati. So there were a lot of conversations that I had with the river, and that's what makes rivers so special. I think you can just sit by a river and soak in the serenity, and I think discuss your problems and let the river take away the problems as well.
Oh, what a lovely way to say it. I think they're so therapeutic. Just walking
Yes,
on those smooth pebbles besides the
true,
rivers and then putting
correct,
your feet, the chilling cold waters. I think it's very
correct, correct.
therapeutic and washing away your problems. I think that's a wonderful way. I would like to know more
Yes.
about your days when you were marooned, during COVID in this
Right.
little village.
Yeah, so actually it was a blessing in disguise. I didn't feel it that time. I'll be very honest with you. At that time it was like, oh my God, what is happening? Why am I here? Oh God, this is so depressing, and because it felt like that because I was away from family. But now that I look back, there is just gratitude for those days because there was so much to learn, Vijaya. It started with the 1 month vacation, like like work from the mountains, in March 2021. And I had no idea that the second wave is, about to hit the country. And then a chance discussion, a conversation with a homestay owner. And he said, "Why do you want to go back to garbage?" He meant
Yeah,
cities,
yeah.
cities.
Manta city
For
life.
mountain, yeah. Why do you want to go back to garbage? and you might need the test. They used to have that test when you have to enter the COVID test to re-enter Himachal. So might as well, be in Himachal. And that's when I started looking for an Airbnb or a kind of a rental where I could stay. And like universe, I always believe that universe has its unique ways of giving you what you need, not what you want. And I got that. I got to stay with the local Himachali family, and they are my family, and I am, their daughter, the adopted daughter, the third daughter, like Auntie says. And Kamla Auntie is my Himachali mom, and she's quite famous on my social media. If you see, there are a lot of fans. She has a fan club. Vijaya, you have to, like, the number of people who know her despite not meeting her is insane. So I stayed with her and I learned a lot about the local Himachali life from her. And it was very different, not from a tourist perspective. This was from a local perspective about their lifestyle, how they imbibe as much, I would call it zero waste, but very, very less waste, okay? And the kind of effect that that lifestyle has on the planet. I mean, it's something so simple where each and everything of the kitchen is, utilized either in terms of fodder, in terms of food for the dog, for the sheep, for the cow, and how it was actual farm to table, actual farm to table. So you have cows in house, so you have all your dairy in house. Then you have all kind of vegetables which are grown in your farms. You have orchards, and there is still a barter system which prevails in villages. When I say a barter system, it's our neighbor who's, they are growing broccoli. We have cauliflower. So one sack of broccoli comes in, one sack of cauliflower goes out, stuff like this. And for somebody who is grown up in a city, this was quite enlightening. It was, a revelation of sorts.
No, I really like it, but that's what how it was before. There was nothing called
Correct.
waste. Everything was used, your leftovers went to
Correct.
cattle and the pigs, and and then
Right.
used as manure for your farm.
Right.
I'm
Right.
intrigued, when your associate or your friend in the village called the city
Mhm.
garbage. He says, don't go back to garbage. Divyakshi, I would like to know from you, how do we prevent our cities from being referred to as garbage? How do we get our cities clean? Yeah, this is an offbeat question, but
Yeah, no, no, it's something that I think even my mom has started to believe in that after being, in the city for so long, and that's the reason why she's moved out of the city after so many years of being in Bombay. She has now, shifted to a village near Mathura. And I think, I mean, she would be of the same, thought process about the garbage. Uh, like, I've lived in garbage for so long. This is what she says. I think it is because, and it's not possible for everyone. Like, before I, get to your question, it's not possible for everyone to leave this city life
certainly not.
that we are in. It's a privilege for people
Yes,
who can
yes.
actually move out and, settle in villages, in the hinterlands of India, adopt that rural lifestyle. It's actually a privilege. And let me tell you, the cost of living is much, much higher in such places than it is in the cities. It's
Correct.
a misconception that, life in the villages is very hunky-dory. Everything from electricity, from the quality of water, everything is expensive. When my mom is staying there, the cost of living is much, much higher because, there is a generator cost because it's in the middle of nowhere. So there are no facilities or convenience and everything comes at a cost. Coming back to your question about how we can prevent, that tag, the garbage tag that we
Yes,
have in
yes.
cities. I think if we just start on a very, very individual level, of waste management, something as simple and as basic as composting in our own homes, and take care of very, very minute things. These are like micro habits, like they say. You don't need to make major changes
In your
in
life.
your life. just like just a 5% or a 1% change, so that those phenomenal changes that we see are actually a series of small habits which are inculcated. If I think everybody collectively does it, and of course the key is consistency. If we do it consistently, then I think we can make cities sustainable. We can have a sustainable life even in cities. And there are certain cities in India which have done it. Indore has done it. So many smaller cities, tier two, tier three cities have done it. So I think we can, definitely change it if we work collectively. If
Thank
we
you.
work collectively.
Thank you. I think these small steps can lead to a huge avalanche.
Correct.
It's fantastic.
Correct.
And,
Something as simple as not just carrying your own bottle when you travel and refilling it. It is
yes,
something so basic. But even after like traveling in groups for so many years, I've seen people still opting for the single-use plastic. And this is something which is completely avoidable. You get RO water, you just need to carry your flask or your bottle and refill. So these are the small habits that I'm talking about in just helping us not contributing to the landfill, which is already, overfilling.
absolutely. Even our ocean beds are full of plastic bottles, you know. And
Correct.
Vyangshi, I'm really fascinated and very curious, about your temples. You have looked at temples, you've looked at the built architecture, the vernacular architecture, and the people, the deities, and the oracles. So I would like
Correct.
to know, more about it, all your experiences in this, spiritual realm, not only spiritual,
Correct.
but also architectural. It's a whole lot more.
Correct. Correct, correct. So I've always been fascinated with Indian architecture, Indian heritage and culture. I think the more I travel abroad, I wouldn't compare because, it's not correct to compare, but there is a sense of pride that I have for Indian architecture across the length and breadth of our country. And so much that I'm so passionate about it that I could, like, if I could just protect it with all my might. I've written to tourism boards regarding certain places. I've spread awareness. I take great pride in talking about Indian temples and Indian architecture because I feel it is spectacular. It is one of its kind. There is, be it Ellora, the monolithic temples, be it the Hoysala architecture of Karnataka, be it the Jat architecture up north, which people don't really know about. It's like a blend of Rajput architecture with Mughal architecture. It takes influences from, both the Indo-Saracenic architecture. Even in Himachal, you have the Katkuni style of architecture. They
Yes.
have a very unique style. It's called the Katkuni Shaili, which is basically an excessive use of cedar, which is deodar wood,
Uh-huh.
and stone. And
Hmm.
some of it is just like an interlocking system that you have. So all these houses that you see in Himachal, they are built with using this, this technique called the Katkuni Shaili. And there are like houses which are 300, 200, 100 years old, all built with pure deodar and stone. So Nagar Castle, if you would have known, it's quite famous, in the Kullu district, Nagar Castle. It is an absolutely brilliant display of Katkuni. It's an exhibit for Katkuni architecture. So I've been always very fascinated with temples. I feel there is an energy. I'm a very spiritual person. I feel the connect with temples and I feel there's an energy. Of course, there's an architecture, there's a history, there's a cultural bit to it, which fascinates me because I love history and Indian history. But there's also that connect that I feel, in such places. I feel there is an energy, and there is definitely a vibe that I connect to, and that's why I'm so vocal about Indian temples, Indian architecture, and of course the doors. Uh, I mean, yeah, that has been a subject of interest since I think 2009 when I first visited Mehrangarh Fort and I started documenting doors in 2009, around 2009. And then, of course, Govardhan and Vrindavan. And I always felt that doors are very fascinating. I got very curious and intrigued with the stories of the doors. Like, why was this door painted in this manner? Why was there so much of carving on this particular door? Then I went to Chettinad and I fell in love with the Burmese teak carved doors of Chettinad. And there is a reason, that the Chettinad doors inside the mansions are built in a shorter height. So
Really?
one of the one of the caretakers told me in one of the mansions, the MSM mansion that I went, which belongs to the family of the owners of the bungalow, the hotel, the
Uh-huh.
bungalow.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Mrs. Mayappan's house,
Uh-huh.
father's house. So
Uh-huh.
that the caretaker told me, there is a story behind why the doors are so short in height. It's because these merchants are very wealthy. So to
Yes.
keep them grounded when they're entering, they're bending down and they're entering. Okay, so to
Okay.
keep them grounded. So
Uh-huh.
such stories, I think doors were always stories for me. And that's where it became a passion project where I started documenting doors. And that's the reason why I was interviewed by the editor of WordPress.com.
Yes.
And, she called doors as the photographic obsession of Divyakshi Gupta. And I was like, okay, I
That's
did
how
not
I came to
want to
know
be
you
a,
through your doors.
yes, and correct. And it was not as if it was like I thought, that I'm going to become the door expert or things like that. It was just a passion project, which
Mm.
actually became, like I can say, passion to paycheck,
Mm.
you know. I can actually say that because I
That's
was
lovely.
roped in as a door consultant for the Tata's campaign, Tata Steel's campaign. They
Uh-huh.
had a very, very, very interesting project called Doors of India,
Mm-hmm.
where I was the door consultant and I curated the entire Pan India campaign, a social media digital campaign that we did for Tata Steel. It was basically to launch their brand called Tata Pravish. It was a door brand, but they did
Uh-huh.
not want to do, a product kind of a campaign. They wanted to do a campaign which is showcasing the iconic doors across India.
Mm.
So I shortlisted 36 doors. It was a brilliant campaign. We won a lot of awards for it. Of course, I was a freelancer on board. I was not working with Tata Steel, but it was a campaign that people remember till date. And it happened in 2017.
Uh,
Until date, people, when they see a door, they click it, they tag me on Instagram, and I feel so good because that it means that people are having those that connect with doors,
correct.
and they are also fascinated and intrigued like I am.
No, to me, you're the door lady. That's what I remember whenever I look. And I love the Chettinad concept. I always thought
Correct,
in Chettinad they would have huge doors because, there were such
correct,
wealthy merchants who traveled across
yeah,
Southeast Asia. They go to many of
correct,
the countries. They're
correct,
still, in descendants of the Chettinads living there
right,
in
right, right.
Singapore and Malaysia and other countries. And I think that's very nice. A lovely way to serenade humility, to encourage
Correct.
humility in a
And
positive.
every door will have a story eventually. If
Yes,
only we actually, there is a reason a door is painted in a particular way.
correct,
Uh, there is always a reason. It's just like it's not just an aesthetic.
correct.
There is a way we have those locks in Kerala on the doors. If you see,
Mm-hmm.
I can't pronounce it, but it's called a particular kind of a lock, which
Uh-huh.
is there in all the Kerala doors.
Uh,
The old traditional. Even in
hmm.
Chettinad, there is a locking system. There is always a locking system that they have, and it's very intriguing because all this is, our tradition, which is slowly falling prey to modernity and
Correct.
commercialization and convenience, like they
That is
call.
true.
So, yeah, because there are no caretakers, or rather, there are no keepers, of tradition.
No, I've
And
traveled in the Mediterranean, especially in
yeah,
Cyprus. I would see all the
yes,
doors, most of them were painted blue. I think that was to
correct.
serenade the beautiful Mediterranean Ocean. you know,
Correct.
so beautiful. When you pass by villages and you look out,
Right.
walking, you see lovely doors all painted. And yeah, I think it's so wonderful, wonderful. And you're also, so much into the cuisine. You were talking about,
Correct.
people, pundit, cooking for everyone.
Yes.
Tell me more
That's in
about the
Himachal.
Himachal. Yes.
So, yeah, so in fact, when I was staying with Auntie, Kamla Auntie in Himachal, I came across the entire fruiting season in Himachal. Okay. I went for a local wedding in the village. And over there, the concept is not that you get invited and you go and all of that. Nothing. It is a wedding of like your own house wedding. So, irrespective of who's getting married, the ladies of the village will get together, they will cook food and all of that. Then there are these pundits called botis, Boti, boti. They're cooks basically. They are Brahmin
Mhm.
priests who are like from families, legacies in the family. They are the ones who are cooking this community meal or
Mhm.
community feast, which
Mhm.
is called the dham,
Mhm.
Dham,
Ah.
Himachali dham. And
Mhm.
every district in Himachal has a unique dham, which is to be had like on the leaf, not a banana leaf, but a different leaf which is called the pattal. They call it the pattal.
Uh-huh. These are
It's a
leaves stick
plate which is
together.
made up of leaves.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, stitched together. And this is just very similar to the banana leaf meal that you have down south. It's
Yeah.
very similar to that. It's primarily rice based. You don't get roti. So
Mhm.
you get rice, and there is an order of the vegetables which is served. And
Uh-huh.
there are like, extremely local endemic dishes which you don't get in any restaurant, no matter how much you pay. If you
Mhm.
pay and you go to those fancy places and then you're served the dham, but there is no authenticity there. It has a restaurant touch. So the entire genesis of, when I started curating tours, these hyper local tours, especially in Himachal, was to get these experiences to people. Why can't, tourists or travelers also have these experiences? So that was the genesis of the experiential travel that, I started these trips. And one of the experiences is this dham, where we don't have to wait to gate crash a Himachali wedding. We have this cook or boti who comes, who demonstrates to the group of what the dham is, how it is, it is a sattvic meal which is made without onion and garlic,
Uh-huh.
basically. And it is so flavorful. So we have a live demonstration of how he is making the dham. And then he's serving, he's the ones who make also serve. So then he serves it. We all sit down. It is like a feast in itself.
Uh-huh.
And we all have the dham. And these kind of experiences is what I had when I was with Auntie. And this is what was my endeavor to get, to bring it to the general public who value such kind of experiences.
Hmm.
That is important because you need to value these kind of, very, very local experiences. So the dham is basically, it's a feeling, it's an emotion for every Himachali. It is not just a meal. It is, a kind of a get together. It's a celebration of food, of flavors. And there are these dishes which you actually don't get, dates ka raita. Like you actually have a raita which
Uh-huh.
is made of dates.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and very unique dishes. So whoever has come and eaten this on my trips have relished the meals. And they have said that, this is like soul satisfying meals. And
Mhm.
of course, travel is also about food. It is about the flavors that you carry back because it is that flavor that lingers on for years as a memory.
Absolutely. I mean, food memories are
Yeah,
very strong. They are passed on,
correct.
generation to generation.
Correct.
Yeah, I was reading, in your blog about dacoits of Chambal. They're such outlaws
Yes,
who do horrific things.
correct.
And they are now, used for rebuilding temples. I mean, they're offering their services voluntarily for rebuilding.
Correct.
Yeah, this is
Correct.
fascinating.
Yeah, this is also something I discovered in the first part of the lockdown in
Uh-huh.
2020
Uh-huh.
when I was in Govardhan with my mum.
Mm-hmm.
And I started because obviously, there was this inane need to travel despite restrictions. And we could not go to crowded places at all. And we could do road trips. And road trips, are a blessing. They really are a blessing. So I went to Gwalior from Govardhan, which was, I think, 4 hours away. And while I was in this resort, which was, we used to take the social distancing, mask, sanitizer, and all of that. We just thought, I'll have a staycation there in in Gwalior. And then I saw this, the hotels have those pamphlets and those brochures of MP tourism.
Mm-hmm.
And that is when I saw this group of temples called Bateshwar.
Uh-huh.
And I got very, very curious and I asked the manager, how far is this from Gwalior? And he said it's an hour away. I was like, okay, but this is Chambal. He's like, yeah, this is Chambal Valley, These were the ravines and valleys of Chambal. So that's when I went and I found an entire, not just Bateshwar, there are like 4 or 5 temples in the spread over the same area of maybe like 20 kilometers, within 20 kilometers radius. The Mitauli temple, which is the Chauset Yogini, one of the Chauset Yogini temples.
Uh-huh.
Very few people know that, the Indian Parliament,
Mm-hmm.
it has taken inspiration, the architecture. This particular circular architecture of the Mitauli temple, Chauset Yogini, has inspired the Indian Parliament
Mm-hmm.
architecture. Then you have another temple which is like literally stacks of stones, 10th century temple.
Uh-huh.
Okay, stacks of stones which are believed to have been built overnight by ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
Story,
Uh-huh.
myths, legends.
Uh-huh.
Then we have the Bateshwar group of temples, which is actually a restored group of temples. It's a cluster of over 200 temples. Okay, and it is a magical place. I mean, I have a connect with that place. It was basically the hideout for Chambal dacoits.
Okay.
Perhaps that's the reason most of these temples are very well preserved.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know what was the reason for Bateshwar, being converted to ruins. Maybe it was an earthquake. We don't know. Maybe it was a natural calamity. But all these were restored by the ASI chief, Mr. Muhammad, KK
Okay.
Muhammad.
Mm-hmm.
And he did it with the help of the dacoits of Chambal.
What
They
is
helped him.
what is yogini
Sorry.
people? Yogini. I mean, we look
Yeah,
at
yeah.
men, but yogini is obviously a female
Correct. It's the Shakti.
Shakti.
It is basically the form, the feminine form
Okay.
of Shiva and
Okay.
the Shakti. That's why we say Shiv Shakti, right? So
Okay.
these
Okay.
yoginis, so we have Chauset Yogini temples in Odisha, in Jabalpur. We have two
Uh-huh.
in Odisha. So these are
Okay.
like circular temples. They are said to be tantric temples,
Okay.
or the force is tantric. That's why there was no roof
Uh-huh.
because the
Uh-huh.
energy is believed to be so strong that there is no roof on the temple.
It's
So I've
no
visited the
rooftop.
one, yeah, so I've visited the one in Bhubaneswar, which is quite small near Bhubaneswar, one
Uh-huh.
Joseph Yogini temple. I've not visited the Jabalpur one, but the second one that I'd visited was this one, the Joseph Yogini temple in Morena district of Madhya Pradesh, which is Chambal. So you can actually see the ravines and when you visit it. So I am curating a trip to Chambal as well this
Uh-huh.
year. And I want to show people because these are places where people will not go by themselves. You
Correct.
definitely need somebody to curate that experience. And I want people to see these temples. The temple that I was telling you, which was built by ghosts,
Uh,
believed to have been built by ghosts, is a 10th century temple and it looks like a Lego tower.
oh, okay.
You actually
Yeah.
feel as if, yes, that's the first thing that came into my mind, when I was looking at it. And it's like it's still standing strong, Vidya, after so many centuries. And these are places that we need to talk about and showcase and preserve and be proud of,
Wow,
actually.
wonderful. So, how do
Uh,
you think, travel will inculcate in people the love for nature? I talk about both the natural environment
yes,
and the built environment. I would like
correct.
to know from you, an avid traveler and a blogger.
I think every trip that I have taken, either it's based culturally based trip or nature based trip, has inspired me. I've learned so much. I've come back a different person when, after every trip that I have taken. When I do these culture trips, when I, travel to temples, for history, for architecture, it's always a sense of how can I preserve this? What can I do to talk about this? How do I showcase it, for the future generations to come? I want this to stay. Even when we go to villages, and in these historic villages, these heritage villages, suddenly we see this modern building, just come mushrooming up amidst the local architecture. It breaks my heart, and that's when this entire thing, this movement begins of awareness. So can we talk about culture? Can we make people I think the basic thing that I could do is, as the power that I have as a writer or a travel blogger, is to encourage people to travel in India. And that's the reason why I started this, India series, 24 places to visit in India in 2024. That was what I did last year, to encourage people travel to Lonar, travel to these villages, travel to the Tirthan Valley. So that is one thing. Secondly, when it comes to nature, okay, and how you say nature impacts people, I've seen it in my trips. When people go for forest bathing, when people just have this hangover after 10 days, when they're like, we don't want to go back to the city life. They have immersed themselves in nature so much, and I think it is quite a privilege to enable that for people, to bring them close to nature, to make them love nature. uh, we do very basic things, and this is something I picked up from one of my friends in the Doreen's group itself, Rajesh. When we go for treks, and this is what I've passed on to even my groups, is when we go for treks, like when we went for this Jalori Pass trek, we everybody has a bag in their hands, and while coming back, they're immersing themselves in nature. Some are very quiet, some are meditating, but everyone has that bag, and they're just picking up trash and putting it in the bag while coming back. This is something which we do on all our treks in Himachal. Even if people cannot go and, clear the litter from
Yes,
when they're traveling. I mean, I don't expect everybody to do that, obviously.
correct.
It's a very personal call, but I think the least we can do is respect the local culture and tradition of the place that we are visiting. If there is a particular way, there are so many Indias in one India. So if there's a particular way, if they are celebrating a particular thing, you may be agnostic, you may be a non-believer, but just being there and respecting the processions, the rituals, um, uh, that itself is a huge thing when you start respecting local culture, traditions, and that is and languages. That is what is immersive travel for me. When you actually, immerse yourself in that particular place, that environment, however alien it is to you or your beliefs, you just being there and respecting their space, the way they're doing things. That itself is a respect of the culture, and that itself is the least we can do as travelers. Because for me, travel has always been an exchange of sorts. Always. it's always an interaction with people. It's always story exchanges, belief exchanges. You go back to a place and you don't come back the same way. There, otherwise, there's no purpose of travel, I feel. If it has not moved you, it's not shaken you, if it's not transformed you, if it's not made you unlearn a lot of things that were already you had learned and you were carrying on your shoulders for a very long time, if it has not broken any stereotype which was formed due to media or due to reporting or certain biases which were formed in your head for no reason, and if it has not done that, then I think there's no purpose of travel. So it is supposed to inspire, it is supposed to transform you, it is supposed to, make you unlearn a lot of things. And that is why it's an exchange, no? Because you carry a bit of that place with you into your jar, your personality jar. And then you leave behind something with the people there because they will remember you for for years, maybe because they learned that particular thing from you. I carried back so many recipes from Himachal when I stayed with auntie, and I she remembers me because I got her hooked to online shopping. Do you know the idea of something coming home
Uh,
and you ordering it without touching and feeling it, and then you have the privilege of returning it, was so alien to her. And now she, whoever walks into her place, she will say, this bed sheet, me and Divya, we ordered together on Amazon, So that kind of exchange is what makes travel so enriching,
Oh,
in my
wonderful.
opinion.
Divya, I think, thank you very much. I mean, learning about, storytelling and traveling, I mean, they're so deep and enriching. I think you're a powerful medium, Divya. That's what I feel, after talking to you today. You're a
Thank
powerful
you.
medium, yes, to convey to my viewers and the people across India and the globe, how to make the world, make our planet a better place to live. I think you can enthuse them with your immersive storytelling, your immersive traveling, inform them, educate them, and help them make the world a better place to live. Thank you very much. And
Thank you so
God
much,
bless you,
Vijaya.
Vijay.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Thank you.